In Defense of the Barbell by Braden Barrett. Online, there's a hodgepodge of fitness misinformation. We're seeing a lot of confusion, and in general, we're seeing some dogmatic claims. Not to mention the amount of information that is out of context. With that, we're seeing a lot of misunderstandings when it comes to my bias in the use of the barbell. Right now, it is very popular to make maximizing hypertrophy content. Maybe they do this because it's a 4-syllable word that makes them sound smart. Maybe they do this because it's highly engaging. I don't know. But we're seeing creators focusing on the minutia for the sake of likes, saves, and shares. These gurus have created a cult following of hypertrophy gremlins who think that because they appeal to their creator's authority, they know everything. If we refer to the Dunning-Kruger effect, these cult followers might find themselves at the peak of stupidity. We get a lot of these gremlins coming onto our channel and trying to voice their worthless opinions. We get so much ignorant animosity against our use of the barbell. So, I would like to address why we still choose to use this tool for our clients. To start, we have to remember the whole vision and purpose of Look Like You Lift. What do we stand for? What are we all about? Strength is the most important physical attribute that we can improve. Our major focus, regardless of health or body composition goals, is to get you as strong as possible. There are 10 different physical attributes. We have seen that by getting as strong as possible, your ability to improve all other physical attributes goes up. Rather, we can potentiate our efforts in each of these attributes. This even includes hypertrophy. We've seen some great returns on investment of time and effort when it comes to strength training. In bone density, stability, preventing injury, quality of life, mental health, and you guessed it, muscle size. Getting stronger is never a downside. But what is strength in the first place? The definition that we use is the ability to produce force upon an external resistance. How hard can you push on something? Now, you can argue semantics and you can play around with various facets of strength, but at the heart of it, we're talking about the fundamental definition of physical strength. Now that we have the understanding, what is the most effective tool that we can use in our efforts in getting as strong as possible? What we have seen is the barbell tends to be the best tool. Why? Number one, economics. I can walk into any major gym and they're more than likely going to have a barbell. Even some of the crappiest gyms will have a cheap piece of metal that we can consider a barbell. Number two, ease of coaching. I can focus on 6 very effective exercises and program them intelligently. With our system of coaching, we can also teach those 6 different exercises quickly and efficiently. A combination of efficient coaching and intelligent programming means we can start using these exercises that are the most effective for getting stronger. The other day, I was in the gym and I saw 2 teenagers trying to do a barbell row. Their backs were hunched over. They had clearly too much weight on the bar. The row movement was all arms and no back. And unfortunately, based off of how they were trying to attempt the movement, I knew exactly which account they were following. With their permission, I went over and taught them how to deadlift. Just from understanding the mechanics of the deadlift, all of a sudden, they were able to row correctly. That was from just one 5-minute session. Imagine what we could possibly do with them if we got their deadlift to 200 pounds and then taught them how to row. The same can be said for every other barbell lift that we have. Number 3, universality. I can use the same tool on a 20-year-old football athlete and an 80-year-old geriatric woman. The same principles apply to both vastly different individuals. Both the athlete and the old woman can get stronger with the same tool. Even if the elderly woman doesn't have the strength to lift a traditional barbell, we can still use the same principles with a broomstick on her back. I cannot say the same for a machine, a kettlebell, or even a more complex apparatus. Number 4, carry over to other exercises. I have found that if we can establish good lifting technique using the 6 major barbell lifts, it is infinitely easier to introduce the more complex lifts. The client now has a better understanding of proprioception, they have better control over their body, and they know what to feel when they do a specific exercise. I can take one of the fundamental barbell lifts and change 1 or 2 cues and make it a completely different lift. For example, our 5-step deadlift setup gets a perfect deadlift every single time. If I wanted to change that into a stiff leg deadlift, I simply would tell the client to change their foot positioning where their shin touches the barbell in step 1. That one adjustment will dramatically change the movement and now have a stiff leg deadlift. I can think of at least 4 or 5 additional exercises from adjusting the technique of the 6 fundamental lifts. From understanding good technique with 6 exercises, we've opened up the possibility of using 30 more exercises with excellent form and minimal corrections. Number 5, cost. We found most of our clients don't like corporate big box gyms. They would rather invest into their garage gym. A great barbell, a good rack, and about 500 pounds of plates will cost about $1,500 to $2,000. If you wanted the equivalent of 500 pounds in dumbbells, kettlebells, or machines, you're looking at multiplying that cost by a tremendous amount. The barbell tends to be a very cost-effective tool for lifting a lot of weight. To once again clarify, our use of the barbell is focused on getting you as strong as possible. We are not particularly interested in growing individual muscles. We work with people who have jobs, families, lives, they're stressed and are dealing with health issues. Their time is better spent learning how to work hard against a barbell than trying to figure out their angle of their humerus in relation to their scapula to get the most out of their lat recruitment. It's minutia, and it's a waste of time. I'd like to address the use of performance-enhancing drugs. Our following in clientele are either natural or only using medically supervised HRT. We have found for the natural individual that more gains and more results come from focusing our time on strength training than trying to balance hypertrophy training. Those who are using performance-enhancing drugs tend to see faster results from the latter. They also have the luxury of spending more time in the gym, more time than most people would like or want. So this works for them. But for the natural individual, chasing massive slabs of muscle tends to be a discouraging and arduous approach. I say this with great reverence for those who chemically enhance their bodies to grow as much muscle as they want. But I'm not going to play pretend and think that a natural individual will see the same levels of gains as those who are using drugs. In defense of the deadlift. The deadlift is a horrible exercise that has a high risk of injury and is not effective for building muscle. This is one of the major criticisms that I get from the Denning-Kruger folks. While I can understand the arguments from the biomechanics experts, the layman does not understand what they're talking about. The deadlift has a high risk to reward ratio. We see most people complain about hurting their backs from doing the deadlift. They get hurt and vow to never deadlift ever again. But to omit the deadlift from your programming is like saying that I will never drive a car because the risk of death is too high. To drive a car, you need to learn the rules of the road. You need to learn defensive driving. You need to learn how to control your vehicle and how to use it as a tool, not as a weapon. The same can be said for the deadlift. If you load up your bar to 400 pounds because you want to show off for your gym crush, you will hurt yourself. But if you take the time to go through our 5-step setup and you intelligently program the deadlift into your regimen, you will not get hurt. Is it the exercise that poses the risk of injury, or is it the incorrect use of the exercise? From my research, it's the latter. Out of the thousands of clients that we've coached to deadlift, we've had 0 injuries. In fact, we've seen the opposite. Clients come to us with hip pain, back pain, and knee pain. By getting them to deadlift, their pain goes away within a matter of weeks. So how can you make the argument that the deadlift has a high risk to reward ratio when we have thousands of clients who've been deadlifting successfully with 0 cases of injury? It's the user, not the lift itself. The deadlift is not effective for building muscle. I will remind you the focus of Look Like You Lift is to get you stronger. We're not concerned with optimizing hypertrophy. If you are an advanced bodybuilder, yes, there may be no place for the conventional deadlift in your programming, but we still see the most successful bodybuilders doing some variation of the deadlift. I firmly believe that every novice, and even most intermediates, should have the deadlift in their programming until they are proficient. Get your deadlift to 2 times your body weight before you throw it out. Why? Number 1, this will teach you how to do hard things. A lot of the children that are arguing in the comments are small, weak, and don't know how to do hard things. I'm not saying this as an insult or an ad hominem. I'm concerned they'll never realize their full potential. Think of how beneficial their life would be if they learned how to pull something heavy off the ground. We've seen this in real life. We take timid children who have no confidence, no self-esteem, no purpose or drive in life. We get them to pull a scary amount of weight off the floor, something that they've never done before in their life, and we see their life change in 1 rep. Imagine how much better your life would be and how much more purpose you would have if you learned how to do hard things. The deadlift is a metaphor for life. You approach a weight that seems like it's glued to the ground. You dig deep within yourself, brace and prepare yourself, and willingly elicit force to lift that burden off the ground. And then you stand tall. You stand proud with that slain beast in your hands. We call this process the refining fires of voluntary hardship. And this is how we create strong and resilient men and women that can do anything they want to do. I'm still not sure I believe the deadlift is not optimal for building muscle. How is it we've seen some of the thickest and largest backs throughout history come from athletes that deadlifted regularly? When I was a competitive strongman, I trained with some of the world's strongest men. We deadlifted twice, even 3 times a week. I've never seen such massive backs in my life. Yes, we were doing accessory work, upper back work, trap work, neck work, lat work, but at the heart of it, they were deadlifting frequently. So while we may not have an answer for that in the literature, I think there still may be something there. And I'm not prepared to throw out the baby with the bathwater. This is my manifesto of why I still believe the barbell to be a very effective tool in programming, and I'm not prepared to just get rid of it because of the misinformation and out of context content on TikTok. Do I think the barbell is the end-all be-all tool that gets all jobs done just as effectively? No. But for most people, if you want to be strong and look like you lift, the barbell can be a very effective tool to keep in your programming. I'm willing to be wrong, and my views might change. I'll continue to challenge these points and I'll look for a more effective tool. Until then, the barbell remains a staple in our program and our coaching.